Hello. It's been a while since I last recorded a video, so a few things have happened. It was my birthday last week, and I went to Tokyo as a little sort of birthday present to myself. I took 2 days off of work. My birthday was on the Thursday, but I took the Friday and the Monday off of work, and I took the Shinkansen up on Thursday to Tokyo. Spent some days there just doing whatever. It was so much fun. It was really good to just go somewhere. I mean, I have been to Tokyo before. I went there for orientation for my current job. I've been there a couple of times because I was catching planes or whatever, and I stayed around there for a couple of hours apart from the planes. But this was the first time I've really sort of gone with the intention of enjoying myself, and that was great. Like I kind of crowdsourced this. I put a post on my Facebook to all my friends. I said, "What are your recommendations for Tokyo?" And got just a ton of stuff. Some very weird suggestions. There are a lot of things, sadly, that I couldn't do. Like I missed booking the Ghibli Museum because I'm an idiot and I didn't. Even though I'd been planning this for a few months, I didn't think like maybe I should get on that. So I didn't get to go to the Ghibli Museum, and I didn't get to go to the bar where monkeys serve you, which, I mean, I might go back to do that. Like the Ghibli Museum, I'm kind of like, okay, yeah, I didn't get to do the Ghibli Museum, but the bar where monkeys serve you, like, that's a must. Um, but I did get to do a lot of really fun things. I was staying at a ryokan. It wasn't really a ryokan. It was more just sort of like a hostel with a large bath in the basement, but it was nice. I enjoyed it. So I got to sort of sit in the bath a lot, like to spend, that was good. That was sort of nice and relaxing just to spend time there and just think and kind of decompress after the day. I went to I think I keep on calling it the Safety Museum, but I think technically it was called something like the Lifelong Learning Center for Safety, something like that. And it sounds so stupid. I'd been intending to go somewhere else, and then about halfway there, I realized I wouldn't be able to get there and back in time before the thing I wanted to do that evening. So I sort of stopped halfway and was like, okay, I'm gonna have to make a new plan. And I googled like fun things to do near me, and it was like the Lifelong Learning Center of Safety, and I was like, that sounds terrible, but it had really good reviews on TripAdvisor. So I decided to sort of check it out because I was curious why it would get such sort of glowing critiques. And it was free, so it didn't really matter. And it was actually really fun because it's like a hands-on center where you learn about safety. So you get to use a fire extinguisher, and you get to go on an earthquake simulator, and you go for a house that is filling up with smoke. I actually really enjoyed myself. I had no idea what was going on a lot of the time because all the talks were in Japanese, and my Japanese is basically non-existent. And but still, I really enjoyed myself. I got to do all these activities, and I didn't even have to learn anything. It was not the Lifelong Learning Center for me. It was just a place where I dicked around for 2 hours. But yeah, that was really fun. It also had the earthquake safety movie, um, which was interesting. They translated it really well. The dialogue was in Japanese and the subtitles were in English, and the subtitles were flawless grammatically and no spelling mistakes or anything like that. Like it's extremely understandable why it's so common translating from Japanese to English. Like, they're very different structures, very different, like English spelling is counterintuitive, whatever. But so the English translation was really good, but the script was just so strange that the translation could not salvage it. So at one point, they pulled the grandmother from the rubble, and just this woman went, "I'm relieved," which you would not say that. You would not say that. But I mean, this movie was weird beyond that. Like it clearly had ambition, but not very much budget or, I don't want to say skill, but skill. Um, So, for example, it was meant to be about a mega quake hitting Tokyo. It's a 7.3 magnitude earthquake hitting Tokyo, and they had all these shots of Tokyo destroyed. But obviously, they couldn't actually destroy Tokyo, so they had normal shots of normal Tokyo with nondescript smoke rising up from certain places, which seemed undamaged, and then just people reacting to these shots like, "Oh no, it's so terrible." Um, it seemed to imply that the children not taking the earthquake training that they had done that day seriously. So they were like, "Oh god, I hate earthquake training. Well, at least it's better than doing classes." Ha ha ha. And that one girl fell into your arms. That was nice. They imply that because they don't take it seriously, that's what triggers the earthquake. And then at the end, they're like, "Wow, thank God for earthquake safety training." Look at the camera, audience, take this seriously. So that's great, and also it has this strange subplot where this kid is walking back from school and a baker gives him some old stale buns and like, take these to your grandmother, and he's like, I don't want to carry these. It's two buns. I don't know why he's so averse to carrying two bread buns, but whatever. And then he gets into his grandmother and she's like, oh, this is so nice. It's yet again, it's two stale bread buns, but sure. And then like the earthquake happens and lots of bad things happen, and oh no. And then at the end, kind of everyone's safe, and then the kid's like, oh, now that it's over, I'm suddenly hungry. And the grandmother pulls out the bread rolls, and it's like, well, I've got these. And they're all like, Grandma! And they like freeze like a sitcom on them laughing. And then this narration just comes in like, thousands of people died that day. So I really don't know what like, I assume that someone wanted it to end on a happy note, and then just someone else overrode and was like, no, it can't. Like, you can't have Megaquake hits Tokyo end on bread rolls. It has to be something like more than that. It has to have a serious ending. So, but then they like, what Porque no los dos? Let's split the difference, and you can't do that. Although it is very amusing to watch. So that was yeah. So the Lifelong Learning Center, fantastic. And after that, I went to the Parasite Museum, which yet again was meant to be educational, but because of my complete lack of Japanese, was just a bunch of gross stuff in jars, which is fine. I like sort of two flavors of museum. I either like my museums to be very hands-on, like just constant stuff that you can touch, like the learning center, like, just constant stuff you can do, pressing buttons, shooting things, blah blah blah, interactive. Or I like it to be barely curated, just very visual displays of one thing. Like we just have this like one monomania, and we are just going to do that. So that was the Parasite Museum. It's just, I think someone just had a bunch of gross stuff in jars, and they're like, let's make a museum out of it. And there is no shame in that. I only spent about 20 minutes in the Parasite Museum. Yet again, that was free. So I was like, yeah, sure, like, I'll just go and then I'll leave. And that was fun. And then, what else did I do in Tokyo? I went to a hedgehog cafe. That was really fun. Although, a hedgehog bit me, and ow! Ow! They have sharp teeth. Ow. Um, and it was adorable to hold them, and they were very active, and apparently they like to be held, so that was good. But yeah, no, when they bite, you feel it, like, ow. Also, they have like really strong jaws. So like I was like feeding one of them a worm with like a pair of metal tongs, and I like put the tongs down, and they grabbed the worm, and then it grabbed the tongs with its mouth, and I was like trying to get the tongs out, and I literally like lifted this hog up bodily by these tongs. Just, it was only holding on with its teeth. Like, that's how strong its jaw was. It was incredible. What else did I do? I went to a comedy show that was awful, absolutely atrocious, extremely unfunny, just excruciatingly self-satisfied in its unfunniness. But sometimes I think you have to go to a really terrible stand-up show to remind yourself that you are not a terrible stand-up, and thus your life is not the worst life. Because as bad as it is to sit through a terrible stand-up show, to actually be a terrible stand-up, I know this from experience. To stand up and to do stand-up in front of an audience who aren't laughing, that is worse. That is worse than almost anything, I would argue. Um, so yeah, that I am very glad I wasn't those people. What else did I do? I went to the robot restaurant. That was really fun. You've probably heard of the robot restaurant if you're at all interested in Japanese culture. It's where a bunch of people dress up as robots and fight each other, and see, that description does not accurately capture the magnificence of this piece of dinner theatre. Um, I can't actually quite describe how wonderful it was. um, I had a great time. I just loved it. Um, I went to a shooting range. This is yes. So at New Year's. So this is my bucket list. This is my 30 things to do before I'm 30 list. And at New Year's this year, so January 1st, 2017, I was like, my New Year's resolution is I'm going to cross off 10 things off my bucket list. And I have now done that. I completed my New Year's resolution on October 1st, which I think is the earliest ever. I'm not sure I've actually ever completed a New Year's resolution before. Because I normally do something every day, and I'm very inconsistent. I can't do one thing every day. I just can't. But yeah, this one was much easier, and it was mostly stuff I wanted to do, so it was great. I crossed 10 things off on my bucket list, and so the last one was in Tokyo. There was a bar with a shooting range inside it, and it wasn't live ammunition because that would be a bad idea. So they didn't do that, but it was you could legitimately hurt yourself with what it was firing. I'm not entirely sure what it was firing, but it packed a punch, I'm pretty sure. And they gave me a modified assault rifle and were like, here, fire this. And I was like, oh, I will. And the item on my bucket list was fire a gun, because I've never done that growing up in the UK. It's not as common as in America, for example. So I fired a modified assault rifle, and I had, because you got to choose your target, and I chose a target which had a picture of a guy holding someone else hostage. And so I did a couple of headshots, and then I realized I could change it so that it would be like a machine gun style fire, and I did that. I did all the different things, and then they bought me the second round of ammunition because you got 2 rounds. With your gun, and so the first one I did headshots, and I was like, yeah, die scum. And then the second one I was like, fuck it, I've always wanted to do this. Slotted in the second one and turned it to automatic and just blindly fired like this, and I did not hit the hostage at all. I only hit the bad guy, even not looking, just doing this. I only hit the bad guy, which I think proves that I am a secret badass. That no one appreciates that. I am secretly Rambo. I'm fairly certain. But what was great was the guy who worked at the shooting range bar. When I'd done my little, he just looked at me. He's like, "Well, you clearly have a lot of anger," which is great because I didn't realize he spoke English until then. But yeah, it was really fun. So yeah, I had a great time, and I've now completed my New Year's resolution, and I've crossed off. So I crossed off 10 things this year. I've crossed off 12 in total off my bucket list. There are 30 items on there, because it's not technically a bucket list. It's my 30 things to do before I'm 30 list. I made it 1 year ago on my last birthday, on my 25th birthday. I made this list because I was like, okay, 25 to 30, that's 5 years. 5 times 12, that's 60. So if I do one thing every 2 months, then that's 30 things to do before I'm 30. That was my logic. and I wrote it. And I think originally I wrote 25 things, and then I had like 5 that I couldn't think of at the time, so I left it, and then I filled in the 5 sort of over the next few weeks, including one where I was drunk, where I walked past a Japanese love hotel that's themed like an old English pub, and I was like, I want to stay there, so I added that when I was drunk, and then the next morning I was like, oh, why did I put that on? But still, I will do that. I will get around to that. I have about 10 months left in Japan now. I have 297 days until the end of my contract, and then I am out of here. I enjoy living in Japan to a degree. I don't regret the time I spent here, but I am definitely. I need to be somewhere new. I need to go somewhere new. I need to just be somewhere that isn't here now. Which is a shame because I have quite a comfortable life here. I could kind of take the creature comforts I have here and just port them with me to the next place. That would be fantastic. But that's not allowed, I don't think. So I have no idea where I'm going to go next. But we will see. In other news, today they are doing auditions for my play. I wrote a script yet again about a year ago. I wrote a script called Mother of the Monster. It's called Mother of the Monster at that time, and it was about an old woman who used to work in the film industry who now sort of lives alone in England, and a journalist comes to talk to her about her past experiences. And this old woman is hallucinating a B-movie monster. It kind of talks about why her career ended. And I wrote that about a year ago, and I was fairly proud of it. And I showed it to one of my friends who, at that time, was in her final year of university, and she has always been very involved with theatre. She's directed some stuff I've written before. She's very talented. I really love seeing what she does with the stuff I write. She's really like spot on. And she read the script and she said she really wanted to do it. And we tried to put it on at Fringe, but sadly it didn't quite work. We were pipped by another show, and now she has finished university and she is creating her own theatre company. And she asked if I would still be interested in having the script produced, and I said yes, of course. So today they are auditioning people. It's very exciting. Yeah, it's people ask if it's strange, to have your work being put on when I'm in another country entirely, because this is back in Scotland and I'm in Japan, and they say like, really, is it strange? And I say, no, it's happened before. The first time I was in Australia and I managed to convince some of my friends there to put on a script I'd written, but it wouldn't go on until 3 weeks after I left Australia. So I missed that one. It's so short. I was almost there for it, and then I had to go home. So that was interesting. And then like I've had like a few things put on in Scotland now, where I've just been in other places, like when I was in France or when I was back in England. And I kind of prefer it in a way, because I used to direct my own scripts, and I am a terrible director. I just don't have the people skills for it. I don't have the right aura of knowing what I'm doing. There's that very old story about Orson Welles going onto this set of Citizen Kane and saying, "Right, what do we do?" And then the first grip turning to him and saying, "You're the only one who's not allowed to ask that." I don't know where the first grip was meant to be from in my interpretation there, but yeah, that story that's pretty much me as a director. So I just come in like, right, what are we doing? And everyone's like, no, you're meant to know what we're doing. And I'm like, damn it. Especially because I wrote the script, so it's like, surely I should know what I wanted, but no, I prefer this way. I prefer giving it to someone else and letting them deal with the mundane realities of getting something actually like produced and realized. because yeah, writing is relatively easy in that regard. You sit down, you put words on paper, and then you stop, and then you give it to someone else, and they have to actually like corral people, and they have to source space and costumes and light, and figure out how many people can come in, and that's the stuff I'm just not good at that. But I love writing. I really do love writing. So I mean, I wish I could see what happens with this script because I'm very excited. Oh, but they've retitled it. Well, very slightly retitled it to Mother and the Monster. And actually, we decided not to put on Act Three of this play. It kind of went a bit weird in the third act. Like the other friends who I showed it to said, "Oh, it's good," but the third act is a bit kind of out of nowhere. And I was like, "Yeah." So we decided not to do that. But in a way, I like that decision because I love the miscellanea and the trivia that surrounds works of art. So the scenes from Pygmalion that George Bernard Shaw was like, hey, you don't really have to stage these. These are unfeasible. And there's those bits of Macbeth that no one ever puts on because it's too long already. I really like that. I like the idea of the kind of the bits of art that only like people who are really into that medium know about. So I mean, obviously, I would love for this play to become famous anyway, just because that would be cool for me. But I would love it if it became famous and then people would be like, oh yeah, well most of the time they don't actually put on Act Three because it's so weird. But and then like there'll be like a really daring revival from the National Theatre where they put on only Act Three, or it's like Act Three is done in mime. I don't know, but yeah, I'm really excited. I wish I could see it, but I have a lot of faith in this production company. They are some very talented people. So I really think it will be good. I think it will be worth a watch. And yeah, I'm excited. It's the one bad thing about sort of having it go on in another country while I'm here is it does kind of fill my head. Like I'm just constantly thinking like, I wonder how it's going. I wonder what they're doing. I wonder who's shown up. I wonder if they found anyone good for blah blah blah. But that's fine. That's I would be thinking about it all the time if I was there as well. So yeah, I'm very excited. There's a festival on today, very near where I live, and I'm going to go in a little bit. They really wanted all of us to come for the entire day, but I can't. I can't sit still for that long. I can't sit still for 8 hours. So I'm gonna go for a little bit later. That'll be interesting. I'm trying to think if there's anything else that's happened recently that I want to talk about. Nope. That's about it. Yeah. So I've crossed 10 things off my bucket list. Well, I've crossed 12 things off in total. So I have another 18 left. And the problem is I'm kind of going through the easier ones at the moment, and I really need to sort of start tackling some of the trickier ones, the ones that will take more organization, the ones that will take more money, more time from me, and just like I need to get those done as well. But you gotta have faith in yourself. You gotta believe you can do it because no one else gives a crap if you succeed. Okay, bye.